Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Fibre Guys Corner with your host me, Adam Foster. Today with me I have Jessica Gelders. Jess is an ex-client of mine and she also runs the Middlesbrough studio. So I thought going forward what would be a nice kind of mini-series is to catch up with some of my guys performing their own programs in different parts of the country and kind of get an overview of their stories, where they came from, how they are now and kind of the people that they're working with. So let's get to it. Hi Jess, great to have you.
Hi Adam, it's nice to be here.
How are you feeling being within the first month of just opening your own studio in Middlesbrough?
It feels great.
Yeah.
It was totally nerve-wracking at first.
Oh yeah, I remember the text messages.
But I've met some lovely people.
As you do.
And it's just nice to be able to help people in the same way you helped me.
Yeah, so I remember last year when I was first starting to expand and I was like, who have I got who would probably do a really good job at this? And then you sprang to mind.
Oh.
Well, you are quite bubbly. I think that helps massively, especially with things like therapeutic alliance with kind of clients. Because this is quite a strange job, do you not think? Because yes, there's a professional boundary line, but it somewhat gets a little bit blurry. Because
very blurry.
You know, I mean, pain is such a personal thing that you can't really be, well, I'm going to sit over here in a white coat and I'm going to tell you this, and you know what I mean, you end up becoming friends with people because it's quite impossible not to.
Well, we became friends and you haven't been able to get rid of me since.
No,
so.
I've tried several times, but no. No, you're lovely, Jess. Cool. Right, so I think for the benefit of people listening, I think maybe if you just cover your story quickly, Jess, of where you came from and kind of how you ended up sitting here in your own place.
Okay. I've always had pain. As a child, right from a very early age, I had knee troubles, back troubles, hip troubles, you name it, I had it. And I just lived with it the best I could. They originally thought I had something called Sherman's disease.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm sure you'll probably cover in another podcast.
You've got a client at the moment with that.
I do, yeah. This was when I was about 11, and when I finally saw the specialist for it, he said to me, "Oh, you don't have that. We were mistaken. It's something else we saw on the X-ray, which means nothing." He had no humour about him whatsoever.
As often the case.
So when I asked him, "Well, what do we do going forward?" He just looked at me and said, "You're just going to have to live with it." So age 11, I thought, well, I'm just going to have to live with back pain for the rest of my life.
It's horrific.
Yeah, it was fairly upsetting.
A big nocebo too.
Yes. That was that. I did. I tried to get on with my life the best I could. Later on, in my late 20s, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And when that was in remission, I still had symptoms of pain and fatigue and dry eyes and headaches and once again all those things that seem to pop up when you're in chronic pain. So I was referred again to rheumatology, who then labelled me with fibromyalgia. Took a load of scans and x-rays, and I was told that because this might have been helpful to mention earlier. The fact that I'm hypermobile.
Oh, yeah.
That my hypermobility was causing me so many micro traumas that my body couldn't keep up with healing them.
Any imaging done to verify that this was actually happening?
There was imaging done, and I never got a very good answer of what they actually found on the imaging.
Yeah.
Because when I went back to see, it was a different doctor who then told me, "Oh yes, you definitely have arthritis at least in your knees, your hips, your back, your hands." Pretty much all over my body. Which that was 2 days before Christmas.
Oh, happy Christmas.
And that was again devastating. Oh God, I was so upset. It just felt like a life sentence. I was terrified to move because whenever I moved, I thought I was causing myself these micro traumas. Yeah, and it was described to me in terms of death of 1,000 paper cuts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just going to keep upping and upping and upping. Yeah. So they then referred me to physio, occupational therapy, hydrotherapy, pain management specialist. I threw myself wholeheartedly into all of that, and essentially it made me much worse.
Why?
It's rapidly declined because of the nocebos I was getting from that.
Oh yeah,
pace yourself, Jess. And the pacing.
Don't overdo it.
Yeah. So when I did do things, I was then getting told I was doing them wrong, or I was doing too much at once, and...
Well, people aren't batteries, so it would help if we stopped treating people as such, especially with pacing. I mean, how many times have you paced with your clients?
Never.
Yeah, same me, because you don't need to. I mean, it's a bit like building a house, isn't it, really? If you build a nice, strong foundation, your bricks go down, it doesn't matter how quickly you build your house, you've got a strong foundation. But if that foundation's not there, then obviously every brick you put down is built on an unstable foundation, will eventually crumble. Which I think why a lot of people struggle with getting better if they do try something, I know, like a catalyst such as exercise, because they'll go to exercise, but without that strong foundation, they'll get 50, 60 bricks up, and then it all comes crashing down. And then it's, well, I tried exercise, and it didn't help. But if you'd have tried it with a strong foundation, it would have set, and it could have been a catalyst that could have helped. But I think that, you know what I mean, I wish people would just kind of, especially things like occupational therapy, where they get people to, oh, and you had this as well, didn't you? To colour in your sleep chart.
Yes.
Or colour in how much activity you do. And that puts the fucking fear of God into people, thinking there's some kind of, oh shit, I've used my 10 spoons for the day. Which is complete bollocks, guys. That's not how bodies work. The spoon theory isn't a thing. How you feel from day to day isn't an adequate representation of what's actually going on in your body.
It also meant I was focused on my fatigue level 24 hours a day. Yeah. If I woke up in the night, it was, oh God, what time have I woken up? I have to mark it down in my chart, and ooh, how active have I been now, and how has it made me feel? And it just takes away the respite of when you forget about it.
Yeah, and when you think about pain and fatigue constantly, it becomes a thing that you can't recover from because you're too busy focused on it. I think that's why pain is probably so powerful, because it's so in your face, and it's very hard to distract yourself away from it.
The other difficulties I had were the exercises the physio gave me didn't relate directly to everyday movements, and neither did the hydrotherapy. I was absolutely amazing at doing things in a swimming pool.
Yeah, but add a bit of gravity to it. And
it didn't correlate at all when I got out of the pool. Also, because of my hypermobility, the hot water would make my veins dilate,
pass out.
make me feel dizzy, which again was not explained to me until I met you. Yeah. That made a massive difference.
Because there's loads of people who are diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I would haphazard say anywhere from about 40% to 60% of people listening who have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia are actually hypermobile. From like a decade of doing this, I would reckon that. And the thing is, every time they get in a hot shower or a hot bath, they're just vasodilating all of the blood vessels, which is making the blood pool, which is making them feel more tired and feel like shit, or give them migraines or headaches. And if people just swap that for, you know what I mean, a cold bath, a cold shower, which is the thing that you think would possibly never fucking help in a million years, and it's such a hard thing trying to get people to do it. But if people just actually did it, you feel the benefits from the get-go. Once you get out and you're still conscious.
Yes, I've experienced that. Because a lot of mobile people will sublux or dislocate. I was more of a muscles going to spasm.
Pull them joints together.
Yeah, and for that, what do they suggest?
Hot
bath, hot shower, which always made me feel absolutely terrible. I then related that because you're thinking of hot bath as something relaxing.
And especially if they've told you need to watch your energy levels, and then you're going to start kind of putting causation because of correlation. Well, every time I have a bath, it's wrecking out my energy levels, so that costs me too much energy to have a bath. But I need to because it makes me feel better, and then you get stuck in this vicious cycle. What if we just go, like when you first come in the studio, I'm like, right, I want you to swap out all your hot baths for cold showers, and you were like, what? What? I'm like, yep, if we're starting together, that's what you're doing. And you were like, oh shit. And then I remember your email was like, holy shit, I'm still conscious and I'm not dizzy. I actually feel like I have more energy after cold showering. Yeah, it takes a while to get used to, but it'll change your life, and it's relatively free. It comes out the shower head.
But it's cheaper than hot water.
Oh yeah, I mean you're spending, tens of pounds every month buying Epsom salts and magnesium supplements and shit like that.
Yeah, I still haven't managed to convince my husband, mind you.
We'll get him one day.
Just keep flushing the toilet while he's in there.
Just bring him outside, I'll get him with the hose. What we do for those difficult clients. You've come a hell of a long way since then. So where are you now, Jess?
I don't think about pain anymore. Don't think about fatigue anymore.
Do you have pain?
I have pain occasionally, like every other normal person on the planet.
Well,
because
like acute pain if you injure something? Or,
yeah.
Yeah.
Or if I'm stressed, I might feel a bit tense or sore in my back. Just normal pain.
Yeah,
like everybody gets, pain.
People
We can't get rid of pain altogether because we wouldn't last very long.
You got something like congenital analgesia, but you wouldn't be listening to the podcast anyway because you wouldn't experience pain. I think a lot of people kind of, when they're trying to recover, they kind of need to understand what normal is. Everybody gets little random niggles. I mean, we're prone to things like sciatica because, we haven't fully evolved completely to walk upright, you know what I mean? That sciatic nerve gets affected. You know what I mean? The way our sinuses are positioned are more positioned for, us being quadrupeds. They don't drain correctly, and people need to understand that. If you can get through the day with not being in pain, and you might be a little bit tired at the end of the day, especially if you start pushing past 40, then that's just a totally normal part of being a human. It's when that shit becomes chronic is when it becomes an issue, when it's pain all of the time. And people need to understand that. People pick up random niggles. I mean, if you look at me, think when was the last time I had pain? When I got really stressed out not so long ago, and I got a little headache for a day, and then that quickly went and I was fine. And then I think 6 months before that, I picked up tendonitis in my elbow for a couple of months when I moved 80 desks inside of the old studio up 2 flights of stairs.
Well, you do refuse help.
I do. I do it myself. I think before that, it was probably about 2 years. I had a little niggly back for a week, and I think that was just from changing my mattress, if I'm honest. But apart from that, pain-free all of the time. Apart from the random shit that you'll pick up maybe playing sports, or that time I did that Insanity DVD, which is horrific, by the way, if anybody's ever thinking of doing that, when my knee was niggly for a week, but then it quickly went. People need to understand what normal is. People pick up random little niggly injuries. It's just part of being human.
Yeah. I mean, I went from needing 40 minutes to get from the living room to bed. I only live in a 3-bedroom terraced house. It's not a mansion. It shouldn't need 40 minutes. Before I met you, to once I'd finished with you, I took my niece to the soft play centre and chased her around it for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Felt nothing. I was totally fine.
Well, I mean, Jimbo, your husband, used to leave you packed lunches, didn't he, by the side of your bed?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't get down the stairs.
Yeah. Because he works away, if he was going out to work for the night, there was a chance I wouldn't be able to go downstairs and feed and water myself, so he'd leave me a flask of tea, sandwiches, and then my mum would come round and she'd check on me, make sure I didn't need anything else.
Because when we applied the framework to you, when you did your programme, a lot of that was a lot of dismantling all the beliefs around the fears, because you had a shit ton of misinformation and nocebos that you'd been told. Especially, I remember explaining how hypermobility works and hyperlaxity, and how the fact that that tissue is a little bit lax in those joints isn't necessarily the be all and end all, because it's more about the proprioception confusion where your brain doesn't really know where the joints are, and if we can just show it where the joints are, it can stabilise a lot better, And I remember when we covered over the microtraumas and how it's not exactly how it works, and the relief on your face is you're like, so I'm not dying constantly when I'm walking. And I was like, no. And then when we slowly introduced a bit of movement in, as I remember the first time you ever did any deadlifting, I was like, right, you're going to pick that up, and you were like, no, I can't, I'll die. So you won't die. But we did we put a lot of inputs into your nervous system to help you kind of relax. A bit of information showing you how things work, so that when you went to do it again, it wasn't as fear driven. And then little by little, you started to do more, and you were like, holy shit, I didn't die. And as we pushed through more, a lot of the tactile cue work we did with your knees and stuff, and once you stopped kind of freaking out a lot of the time with it, and you started to not be in as much pain.
Yep.
And it just all sort of, like I call it the inertia effect as well. Once you build that momentum, it's like a snowball going down a snowy hill, and it gets a little bit easier and easier until we hit that nice full recovery. I mean, it was nice when your client Laura, when you got her recovered, and we all went trampolining.
That was
for
very
her
good.
last session. That was an awesome session. Or even just to, well, not only just to see Laura trampoline and feeling, you know what I mean, fine and not in pain or wrecked, because she was a little bit kind of social anxious as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But it was nice to see you jumping around as well.
That was good. And if you'd known me about 10 years ago, more, 15 years ago, I got my own trampoline for the garden, used it once, and was in agony, and never touched it ever again.
Well, what hit me quite hard was a couple of months ago when I was sat down talking to Johnny in Edinburgh. And Johnny said, he says, does it not feel weird, Adam? No, that was it, sorry. He says, it's weird, Adam, to feel that I'm going to be somebody else's Adam. And I was like, what? And he was like, because there's all these people that you've helped recovered, you know, including me and Jess and Hedda. And then you're like, you're our Adam. And then for like Johnny's recoveries that are coming out of Edinburgh and yours and Hedda's, they're all your guys' recoveries. And it says, is it weird? I thought, I never really thought about it like that. Yeah, you have to be somebody else's Adam. But it's nice. I've quite enjoyed taking a little step back and watching all you guys kind of do your own stuff. Because I've done this for a very long time. My last holiday was 2014. Not that I'm keeping track. But I'd like maybe just to have a lie in once every so often.
Yeah, if your brain will allow you that.
Well, I've stopped waking up at 4:30 every day now. So that's been a big plus. But the days seem much shorter. The week seems really quick. Like, I mean, it's Friday today, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm like, I have no idea what day it is or time anymore now. But yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, Jess, and thank you for going through a little bit of your story. If there's anybody listening, is there any particular things out of it or particular things from your story that you would like to convey to other people?
Oh, well, yeah, when I was told I had arthritis...
it was osteoarthritis, wasn't it?
Osteoarthritis, which wasn't actually proven, it was a possibility.
Yeah.
They needed to do further tests. That was something I wasn't told at the time either.
But they
However,
just told you anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
But even if I did have osteoarthritis, it doesn't mean to say it means...
Well, it correlates to pain.
Yeah. So a few years ago they did a study. They took 4,500 people. Some of them had hip pain, some of them didn't. And what they found was 80% of people with hip pain had no osteoarthritis whatsoever. 85% of the people with osteoarthritis had no hip pain. So the level of osteoarthritis and the level of pain in no way correlated.
Yeah, they've done a shit ton with knees, and what you normally find is people with osteoarthritis of the knees, the more pain people have. So if you take just people with osteoarthritis and you image them, generally the people who say they have the least amount of pain have the most degeneration, and the people with the most amount of pain have the least degeneration. You know what I mean? And you can have people who have osteoarthritis and have no pain, some who do, and especially you will know after all our training and stuff together, pain is complicated, and it's never just one thing. It's a
extremely complicated.
It's a mixture of different biological factors and psychological and social. Time plays a part of it, and people need to understand that how they feel is an adequate representation of what's going on in the body. And even if there is osteoarthritis in the body, then that doesn't really mean anything in the big term. Yeah, it might be a contributing factor, in a very small cases.
It's a misnomer, isn't it? Osteoarthritis.
Oh,
Osteo means bone, arth means joint, itis means inflammation, and osteoarthritis is not an inflammatory disease. It's degenerative.
So it would help if they named it right.
It would help if they named it right. I mean, as we get older, we all degenerate, unfortunately.
You don't. You're 35 and you're still 20. But that's because you're hypermobile.
Yeah.
Good old collagen.
But if I did get wrinkles, I wouldn't go to the doctor and get diagnosed with facial fascial degeneration syndrome. And syndrome and blame headaches on them. You know, and just accept that.
So why do we do it with our back?
Why do we do it with our back?
You wouldn't expect to have a spine of an 18-year-old, because you're not 18.
I'm not 18.
But yeah, I think a lot of it with people comes down to misinformation, isn't it? People need the right information, and unfortunately, I mean, pain receptors, not a thing, don't exist. To call something a pain receptor is to confuse nociceptors, nerves, with pain. Two totally separate things. But if you type in pain receptor on, I don't know, Google, first thing that's going to come back is a Wikipedia page on pain receptors.
Yep.
I mean, which is from like 1664. We were still burning witches back then.
Well, I watched a film. I can't remember what it was called. It was only last year. Only came out last year, and they talked about pain receptors in that.
Yeah, it's out there all the time. What was that Morgan Freeman film with Scarlett Johansson? Was it Lucy? Talking about
with the brain.
Humans only use 10% of no, we use all of our brain all of the time. So there's more. Or even hypermobility. That's a good one. Hypermobility is a terrible name for it. It should really be hyperlaxity. But it was coined by, I think it was Hippocrates who coined it, watching Persian bow and arrow men fire arrows, and he noticed some of them could hyperextend a bit further and get longer shots. And they did kind of convene and said, should we change? They thought, nah, that's too much effort. Well, look, when they found a fifth quad muscle in 2016. So, I mean, quad means 4, but there's actually 5. Should we change it? Too much effort.
Who can be bothered?
Screw it. Right. Thanks for coming in, Jess.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you guys at home have enjoyed. See you on the flip side, guys. See ya.
Bye.